I was one of them, 12 times. That's how many promotions I watched slip through my fingers while my ideas were borrowed, my contributions downplayed, and my confidence slowly chipped away. Each rejection felt like a slap in the face, a reminder that no matter how hard I worked, I wasn't seen. I started wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why does it feel like I'm invisible in rooms I helped build? If you've ever felt like you're giving your all late nights, early mornings, constant hustle only to be passed over again and again, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let me tell you, it messes with your head. It made me second guess my worth, my career choices, even my voice. I started shrinking myself, trying not to ruffle feathers, hoping anyone would notice my consistency. But no one did, not until I changed everything, because here's the twist. Today, the same people who ignored me for 12 straight promotions, they're now flooding my inbox, asking for advice, offering consulting contracts, even begging me to return to save the team. The same team that wouldn't give me a chance is now calling me irreplaceable. Funny how tables turn, right? So if you're tired of being underestimated, if you're sick of feeling like you're stuck in the shadows, keep watching. I'm about to tell you how I went from being completely overlooked to becoming the expert they couldn't afford to ignore. Let me take you back a few years. I was working as a mid-level analyst in a corporate office tucked inside one of those towering glass buildings where everyone walks fast and talks faster. My name was on the employee directory, my face on the team roster, but in reality, I may as well have been invisible. I was always the first one in, last one out. I fixed broken systems, mentored new hires, and even jumped in to help managers with their presentations. And yet, when it came time for recognition, when promotions were on the table, I was passed over. Not once, not twice, 12 times. 12 painful reminders that no matter how much I gave, it was never seen as enough. Meanwhile, my colleagues who socialized more, talked louder, or took credit for group work, they moved up like it was nothing. One of them even got promoted, with my project in his portfolio. I remember sitting in the break room, overhearing the announcement, and just staring at my coffee like it might explain how this kept happening. My parents told me to just keep my head down and work hard. My friends said, "Your time will come." But how long was I supposed to wait for a chance that never arrived? Eventually, I realized I had two choices: continue being the dependable background character in someone else's success story, or rewrite the script and become the lead in my own. This story isn't just about workplace betrayal or missed promotion, about how I turned my frustration into fuel, how I took back my power, and how I became someone the industry couldn't stop talking about. Because trust me, once you understand your value, the world starts to pay attention. The first time I was passed over for a promotion, I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they just needed someone with a bit more experience, I told myself. The second time, I assumed it was a timing issue. By the fifth time, I had no excuses left, just bruised pride and a growing sense of invisibility. The worst part, no one ever gave me feedback. Not even a half-hearted "maybe next time." It was like I didn't even exist in the conversations where opportunities were handed out. I watched people with less education, less experience, and far less dedication leapfrog ahead of me because they were louder, more political, or simply better at playing the game. Every time a new promotion was announced, I'd paste on a smile, clap politely, then cry in the bathroom during lunch. It started to take a toll not just on my confidence, but on my identity. I began to question if maybe I wasn't as smart or talented as I thought I was. If maybe this was the best I'd ever be. And still I worked harder. I took on projects no one else wanted, stayed late, never said no. I thought if I just proved myself enough, they'd have to notice me. But with every promotion that skipped over me like I was wallpaper, it became painfully clear. I wasn't being overlooked because I lacked skill. I was being ignored because I was convenient to ignore. I became their dependable fallback, person they knew would say yes without complaint, who wouldn't stir the pot, who didn't demand the spotlight. And that's the trap so many of us fall into, thinking loyalty is enough. Thinking hard work alone will speak for itself. But in a world full of noise, silence gets you nowhere. It was then that I realized if I didn't start treating myself like I mattered, no one else would. And that's when everything started to shift. Once I accepted that being silent and loyal wasn't working, I knew I had to change radically, but I didn't want to just make noise for the sake of it. I wanted to become undeniable. So I started by doing something uncomfortable. I began talking about my wins. Every Friday, I sent a short email to my manager summarizing what I accomplished that week. Not bragging, just facts. Metrics. Impact. At first, it felt awkward, like I was tooting my own horn. But I realized that if I didn't tell them what I was doing, they'd never know. I wasn't going to shrink to keep other people comfortable anymore. Next, I updated my LinkedIn and started sharing insights from the work I was doing. Industry tips, success stories, even failures I learned from. Slowly, I built an online presence, something I had never cared about before. But people noticed. Recruiters started messaging me. Colleagues commented. I was building authority beyond my cubicle. Inside the company, I began volunteering for high-visibility projects, strategic ones, not just grunt work. I asked questions in meetings instead of sitting silent. I started suggesting ideas, even if they weren't perfect. The goal wasn't to be right, it was to be seen. I also got a mentor outside of my department, someone who didn't know me well but had influence. I asked for advice, and they gave me more than that, they gave me sponsorship. They started mentioning my name in rooms I wasn't in yet. Slowly but surely, the energy shifted. People began to associate me with initiative, insight, and leadership, not just reliability. I wasn't just the backup option anymore. I was the obvious choice for the next big thing. But the biggest change didn't come from networking or visibility. It came from within. I stopped waiting for permission to be powerful. I claimed it. I stopped wondering if I was ready and decided to act like I already was. That internal shift was the match that lit everything else on fire. It all came to a head during the company's annual strategy retreat. I wasn't originally invited, big surprise. But my mentor made a few calls, and suddenly I was needed on the innovation panel. That morning, I walked into the conference room where all the top execs were seated, sipping coffee and glancing over presentations. My heart was racing, but my voice didn't shake. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't hold back. I presented a new client retention strategy I'd been quietly working on for months, backed with real data, projected ROI, and even a test pilot I'd run behind the scenes with one of our smaller markets. I could feel the shift in the room. Phones went down. Eyes locked in. People were listening. One VP leaned forward and said, "Why haven't we heard about this before?" And I smiled politely and said, "You have now." When the presentation ended, I got a standing ovation from people who didn't even know my name a month ago. Later that day, two execs cornered me during lunch and said, "We've been overlooking you. That ends today." A week later, I got offered the lead role on a new product launch team, skipping over not one or two but 3 levels of bureaucracy. That same team included people who had once ignored me completely. Now, they were emailing me for guidance. And, the cherry on top, HR emailed me to discuss a title change and compensation adjustment. Just like that, the same company that had shut me out of 12 promotions suddenly couldn't afford to lose me. I had become essential. Looking back, the transformation wasn't overnight, but the recognition certainly felt like it. What started as quiet frustration turned into focused action. I stopped waiting for someone to hand me a spotlight and started building my own stage. I didn't just work hard, I worked smarter. I learned to speak the language of value, not effort. And most importantly, I stopped seeking validation from people who were never going to give it to me in the first place. That shift in mindset changed everything. My story isn't just about career wins, it's about reclaiming myself. It's about choosing to rise when you're constantly being overlooked. And knowing deep down that you deserve to be seen, heard, and respected. Ironically, the very people who dismissed me are now the loudest voices singing my praises. But I don't hold grudges, I hold boundaries. The truth is, people don't value what they don't understand. Once I made it impossible to ignore my impact, they had no choice but to take notice. And while I'm grateful for where I am now, I'll never forget how it felt to be invisible. That memory fuels me to keep pushing, to never settle. And to always advocate for the ones still waiting to be seen. If you're feeling overlooked right now, let this be your sign it's not the end. It might just be the beginning of the most powerful chapter in your story. If you've ever felt ignored, underestimated, or pushed to the sidelines, you're not alone. Drop A in the comments and tell me, have you ever been in a situation where your value was overlooked until it was too late for them? Let's start a conversation. Your story could inspire someone else to finally take control of their own narrative. And if this video hit home for you, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I've got more real, raw, and powerful stories coming that you won't want to miss. Check out my other videos on personal growth and reinvention, especially the one about how I turned a career dead end into my dream business. Trust me, you'll walk away motivated. And remember, just because they don't see your worth now, doesn't mean you're not valuable. Keep showing up, keep improving, and keep betting on yourself, because one day they'll come knocking, just like they did for me, and when they do you'll have the power to decide if you'll answer the door. Thanks for watching. Now go make them remember your name.